during this time and take care of any personal needs, get any food, any snacks. And in that time, we are changing our exercise of the week to include our upper body, and this is 10 good push-ups. So here is your timer. my goodness, I can't stop the robot. Let's just close the window. There we go. All right. So let's come back to our daily slides. Okay. All right. So at this point, you should have already done your quick write, your first question. Today we're doing 10 push-ups, and you are going to be opening up your Jamboards in just a second. But before we do that, our critter of the week isn't really a critter. It's a mummy, as in, yes, mummy, or yes, mummy, or yes, mummy, depending on what sort of punctuation you have, comma, period, or none. But either way, we are looking at mummified critters. So they used these amazing three-dimensional scans. They zoomed in to get more detail, and then they made 3D printed models to allow for a dissection. So they found a kestrel, but they're not sure how that died. They found a cat that turned out to be a 5-month-old domestic kitten and determined it had damage to the skull prior. And the kitten was strangled to death, a little morbid. Its head was removed from its body after death. The snake, which was an Egyptian cobra, had a similar fate, had signs of a broken neck and dehydration. I believe they also found kidney damage. And the snake's mouth looked like it had been forced open with something put inside, which is what they did to human mummies, based on their spiritual beliefs of the afterlife. So they may have seen that as a messenger of the gods. Pretty cool. All right. So just as a reminder that underneath the daily slides, you can always find links to the article, and in this case, also the video. All right. So the next thing I want you to do is to open up, and please press pause until you've got this open. Pause the video. Open up the Jamboard, What's Its Role? So please push pause now and open that Jamboard. Okay. So this is the Jamboard you should have opened up. It should say, what's its role? And in just a second, I'm going to give you some time to revisit this. This past week, you guys took a look at the abiotic and biotic factors. You tried to determine the relationships between these animals in the Jamboard and the organisms that are not animals, the biotic and abiotic factors. And then you took a look at components of an ecosystem, the decomposers, producers, and consumers. So there were a few ways that you could have arranged this Jamboard. So right now, I'm wondering how many of you put the lion at the top. Lions are a big organism. We all know what a lion is. A lot of people weren't sure what this is. We could call that a gazelle. It's a type of Saharan gazelle. We obviously know the sun. I wonder how many of you forgot to move the sun. We had a hyena. We had fungus or mushrooms. There are many, many thousands of species of mushrooms. And we have grass. But I bet a bunch of you put the lion at the top. That might have been a little difficult, because imagine here that we have the lion and the sun and the hyena. Do both of these things need sun? Yes, absolutely they do. So say I want to add an arrow. That's how I add my arrow. And I want to, I don't want it that way. I want to turn it. So the lion needs the sun, but the sun doesn't need the lion. So maybe we turn it this way, because what we want to do is show relationships between objects, not just between organisms, but also relationships of energy and the flow of energy. So I want you to take a look. Does your Jamboard start in the middle? Does it start on the left? Does it start on the right? You want to start from something that everything needs. You want to go from the biggest system to the smallest system. And I bet that as you take a look at this, you're going to need to rearrange things. So, regardless of whether you start at the top, the left, the bottom, or the right, you need to think about starting with the object or the thing, the entity in here that every one of these things needs. So if you started with the lion, you may need to rearrange that. Does the fungus need the lion? Does the grass need the lion? Does the sun need the lion? What thing do all of those need? You may have arrows going to multiple things that all need the same thing. Then from there, you want to show how the energy flows through that system from the thing that everyone needs, and then what relies upon that and what relies upon that. And what we want to start thinking about is the energy and the relationships of that energy and to the components of the system, to these organisms. What is their relationship to each other? And how does energy flow from one to the other? So don't just think in terms of herbivores, but be thinking about those consumers and producers specifically. Where are those? What is their relationship to the others? So you may have arrows that go both directions. You may have arrows that go to multiple things. So right now, what I want you to do is revisit and revise. And I want you to go through and actually change some things. Now, here is where those of you watching the video have an advantage, because you're going to hear this final piece of information that's only here. You're also going to add a sticky note. And in this sticky note, you are going to say what components did you change and why did you change them? So in other words, I want you to tell me what needed fixing. How did you have it arranged in the first place? And now how are you revising it to represent the relationships, the interconnections, and the flow of energy from one to the next, and within and amongst all of the other components? So you're going to add a sticky. I don't care where you put it, but put a sticky somewhere to tell me which components did you change and why did you change those. Okay, the next thing that you're going to be doing, if we take a look back at our agenda here, is we have two things related to food webs. So right now you should be pushing pause, making those corrections to that Jamboard, adding that sticky note. So push pause now and do that. Okay, so now we have these two other items here looking at food webs. So we've just taken a look at the connections and the roles that different things in an ecosystem play. And we could think about these things as all forming not just a circle or a straight line, but a web. So I have two introductory activities for you here that are in your Google Classroom related to food webs. The first is watching a video and answering some questions, and the second is some practice. So if we take a look in our Google Classroom, we can see we have the first one here is a Jamboard with some video questions. You have two videos. You do need to watch them both. The next is a slideshow having to do with food webs. And I'm going to turn you loose here to work on these in just a sec. So just as a reminder, if you ever can't see these or if it opens really small, go to View and Zoom, and that will make it bigger. Make sure you're typing into the text boxes for your answers, and you'll do this after you do the Jamboard and watch those videos. So the only other thing that I wanted to show you today is creating a food web. This is something that you may do with a partner if you like. This is not due until Thursday and Friday of this week. This is also a Jamboard, but it's a much more detailed Jamboard, and this will take you some time. I do not foresee you getting to this today. You can start it on Wednesday. You'll have a little bit of time to work on this on Thursday and Friday, which is when it is due. So again, it is up to you whether you want to work with one other person. And during class, you will email me, or not email me, you can put in the chat or email, I don't really care, and let me know that that's what you want to do. So for this assignment, you're going to be creating a food web using all of these pictures and their descriptions. Be sure to add arrows. So again, we're adding arrows here to show the feeding relationships. So we're looking at relationships and the flow of energy in the system. So a food web is created not just based on relationships of species, but also of the connection to the energy through the system. So the arrows have to point in the energy or the direction of the energy flow. Where is the energy going towards? So one way you can remember that, the energy is never going towards the sun. It's always going away from the sun towards something else. So this should start on one side of the board and flow across to the other. So think about what you would start with. Where would those arrows go? And how do you end it? Remember, you can have arrows going to multiple places. So this will be due on Friday. This is worth a bit more points than normal Jamboards because this should take a bit of thought and planning. Okay. That is everything for today. As a reminder, office hours are changing. They're now Monday and Thursday. Make sure you check the quick writes for questions. There will be more throughout class. Your extra credit, you've still got a lot of time, but you cannot have any missing assignments in order to do the extra credit. That's all. Have a great day, guys.